90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay. I do apologize for the delay. We have been having some technical difficulties here in studio, but we press on, we push on, and so want to welcome everyone to another program here. It is a beautiful Saturday here in Kansas City for November. I know as we were coming in, the winds were starting to change. You could feel that cold air coming in, but like I said, not going to complain for early November here in Kansas City. And I want to thank Lady D for sitting in for me last week. I had the honor and privilege of attending an Hydradenitis Suppurativa Conference, or HS for short, Empower Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was an awesome event. I was there from Saturday through Tuesday. Really enjoyed Nashville. I'm sorry, Saturday through Wednesday. But really enjoyed Nashville. It was a great city. And the conference was just wonderful. I want to thank the folks at HS Connect for putting the conference together and bringing so many incredible people together. The experiences that I had, just the empowering, I hate to keep saying that, but that's just the way that it felt, finally being amongst so many people who have a shared experience with this horrific condition. And so, like I said, I want to send my heartfelt thanks out to the folks over at HS Connect. And normally my guy, Brother Brown, would be in studio with us today, and I want to send out my condolences to him and his family. They had a death in the family, and so he is not able to be with us here today, but always with us in spirit. So sending my prayers out to him and his family today as well. And so we are going to get started with our program. We have a very special guest in studio. I want to thank her for being so patient as we work through these technical difficulties. And throughout this program, I'm going to work this story in of how I know your husband and how the universe we have some sort of a connection.
Yeah.
It's like every few years I'll run into him or something, and it was like crazy at different milestones in my life. So it's just wild how things work out. So definitely gotta tell that story. But let me give you a proper introduction before we get started. And so, like I said, we have a very special guest in studio. Mrs. Latrice Thomas is in studio with us. And so Latrice was elected alderman of the 3rd Ward in Raytown back in April of 2025. She is a proud graduate of Paseo Academy of Fine Performing Arts. So that came, was it the Performing Arts School when you were there?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. And so then you also were a 20-year healthcare professional with the University of Kansas Health System, founder of Imagine Me, a nonprofit offering sexual health education and support for parenting teens. And we're going to talk about her journey into public service. I'm sorry?
Your disclaimer?
Yeah, we played the disclaimer.
Okay.
Well, all right. And so let me go ahead and bring you into the conversation. Ms. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jay, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. And so we are definitely going to delve into really what brought you here relative to the controversy with the alderman position. But here at Changing Narratives, I always like to introduce our guests to our audience and kind of give your background. And also to take the opportunity to really kind of demystify some of the work that needs to be done, and those folks that are actually doing the work out here. And so talk to us. I mentioned that you are a graduate of Paseo. So talk to us about how where you grew up in Kansas City, how that kind of shaped your journey and led you to what you're doing now.
Okay. I did. I'm born and raised here in the streets of Kansas City, the inner city. So I've been here my whole life. And of course, graduate from a class of 99 graduate of Paseo High School, Paseo Academy of Performing Arts. Hey, I'm just gonna say Paseo High School.
Mm-hmm.
And funny that when I look back in hindsight, because on my political journey that I'm on now, I've actually played around and used to say, you know, I want to be the mayor of Kansas City. You know, not really knowing exactly what the mayor does, or you know, it was just. I knew I wanted to be in that space, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and just didn't know where to really start, didn't know how to go with it. It was just something I put out there, you know, that I wanted to do. And obviously I probably got that idea because I saw a lot of things that needed to be done or needed to happen. I wanted to advocate for people that was in my neighborhood, in my community, people that looked like me and all of that. So I guess I kind of thought at that time that what better way for me to get into that than to be the mayor, you know, or whatever. So, and just going through my years, I was a mother, a wife, and I just didn't see how I could possibly get into politics. Like, I always knew it. I always shared with my husband. I wanted to get into it. He's low-key big in politics, but he running, I don't see, but he always would look at the issues and stuff like that. So more and more I would sit with him and he would, you know, say little things about different people and I would be like, yeah, you know, I gotta ask him, he's from Chicago, so there was what was her name? Lori? I can't. What was the mayor? But she was loved in his, you know. And he would always say people love her or whatever. And so I just kind of, you know, just would always just look at and kind of zone in when I seen people like me, black people, get into politics because I was like, dang. Then I started getting, you know, kind of surrounding myself into environments where I knew I wanted to get into and just kind of see what people were doing, how they were getting involved and all that, you know. So it just led me to that, and I end up meeting somebody. I'll be real gentle and careful with just putting names out there because of the situation. I just won't say this person, that person. But it was a particular person who encouraged me to start off as Jackson County committee woman. Okay. And it was, I was like, okay, what is that? Okay. And I just kind of did some research, and I was like, why not? You know, and it was for my area. Which is Brookings Township. And so I did it. I went through the process, was elected there's two of us. And so I was elected and just went there. And then after that, I said, you know what? And I sort of started to consider the school board. Because I was like, oh, I have a son that is in the school district right now, and I thought, okay, let me go ahead and maybe I can get him out. See, some changes need to be happening. You know, if I got my hand in it, maybe we'll see. And so I just kind of, and at the same time, they were, it was the election for the school board and for the city council. So I just went ahead and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do the city council, you know. And so I did it, and even that was a journey in itself. You know what I'm saying? So, and it really started shining the light on, I need to be here. Things need to be changed. I see what I just knew. So looking back and going through the situation, I will go for it.
Right, no, most and you know, and I covered, you know, we covered a lot of terrain there. And so, you know, kind of want to back up from the just your interest in politics. Was that something, you know, in your family that was an interest? It was just something, because, you know, most folks run away from, like you said, politics and just don't want to get involved. And so that is very interesting. And then, like you said, just having that aspiration of wanting to see folks that look like you involved in politics. And so around what year was it that you became the Democratic committee person?
That was in, I'm up in 2023. That was in 2023.
Okay. And so now at this point, you know, like you said, you're a mother of five, and you have, you know, decades of experience working in the healthcare system. And so, you know, as you were on that journey, you know, throughout that 20 years and raising your kids, were you just kind of, you know, collecting data, you know, recognizing, hey, these are things that I wish were better, and then when you got the opportunity, now it's like, okay, you know, I can do this.
I would say the last 5 years is when I really started collecting data. You know, started really getting involved in community outreach, really, you know, advocacy, just really looking at and listening to the needs of people. Like, you know, the conversations would start to get more into a focus where I would be like, okay, so that is what that's a need. That is where people are lacking, or that is what's not being, you know, I would see where there would need to be holes plugged in. Like, I'm like, people are not educated in this, you know.
Right.
People, meaning more so my people. I was like, hey, they really don't know things that I felt like we should. Like, we don't even know whose are this or whose are that. Or we don't know that that we have people that's advocating for us, and that we should go to those people, that we should, you know what I'm saying? We just didn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest thing where I started kind of meeting people, getting in those places where I was like, oh, so this is what we do. This is who this person is. This is, okay. You know what I'm saying? I was like, people need to know this.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And so just really that idea of, like you said, getting the information out and educating people on these processes is really kind of what, you know, is driving you. So that's awesome. And we are actually up against our first break. So if you are just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and our guest, Mrs. Latrice Thomas, and we'll be back after this quick break with Brother Jay. And that was a song by Lauryn Hill. It was actually on, gosh, I cannot think of the name. It was a movie on Netflix. It was a black western, but it was on the soundtrack, one of my favorite songs. But anyway, we are going to get back to our conversation that we are having with Mrs. Thomas around her experience running for alderman, being elected, and then being removed. And so I want to hear things from your perspective. And because when I did look earlier on the City Hall website and, you know, see any updates, so I want to make sure that I do put that out there. So definitely want to give you the opportunity. So let's kind of start with, once again, we talked about, you know, kind of your motivation and your activism, which I just always find great, because there's so many people that talk about problems, but then there's people that do things, and so I always want to give you guys your praise. And so to go from wanting to do that and then running for alderman, so let's start there. Okay. You don't have to say who convinced you to do it, but let's talk about it. Okay, you decide to do it, and let's go.
Okay, so I decided, and a lot of thoughts go to my mind when I think about, you know, I'll be transparent, and since my husband's in the room, I'll just say, like, it was a shock to him that I even won as well, but I'll just he
was like, no way they didn't let you win. I'm just gonna tell you. I'd have been out here. I know. It's great time.
And when I finally, you know, like when he saw it, that, you know, my name came across, because he seen me out moving and grooving and really doing it, and I know during that process, he's like, she really is doing this. Like, you know, I mentioned it to him. I told him that I was going to do it, and I think he didn't really. Hey, even the whole process even kind of shocked me too, because I just it was a battle. I will say that it was a battle. You know, Raytown is that type of city, you know, and if I say that type of city, you just gotta know what I'm saying, you know, without saying it. So, when I say that, my husband, he'll say you young without saying you young. So definitely, so I get that when I say it's that type of city. And so, I got a lot of backlash. I'm talking about when I, just thinking about it, I got a lot of backlash where people was like, "Ooh, you ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna be able to do it," because of I was going up against an incumbent, you know, and it was also another opponent. And I will say that I was going up against two white men, you know. And here it is, I'm a black woman, and it's just that thing where you're like, okay. And the incumbent that I was going up against had been around for a while, and it was just, a lot of people were like, I don't see it happening, you would have to do this, and I put in a lot of work. I did. And so I went through that process, and I did it, and I even had to do a recount. That's how much it wasn't just my husband, like, what? Like, I had to do a recount. I got a call, and they said that, I had to come and do a recount. Did it, still was what it was. I won, all right. Okay. And it was by 5 votes. It shocked the mess out of me, too. I was like, I did it. Like, that night was just my daughter busting the door. I was so exhausted that night. This was April the 8th, and she was like, Mama, you won. I was like, I won. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
I was like, I did what now? And so I ran down. I think either I told Michael that same night, I must have been exhausted. That next night, he was like, I know. Yeah, I saw that. And he was like, I can't believe this. Like.
Absolutely.
And
we're old enough to definitely, remember, it's like, you going through Raytown?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would hear people would say, like, oh, wow, they let you up in there, have a seat, And so just when you just hold space just right there for saying that, you know what I'm saying? That explains why what has happened has happened.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And like you said in there, it's a layered conversation because
it is.
There, has been progress just from the fact that, like you said, you did win lawfully and rightfully. And so, that may not have been possible, or may not have been possible. That wasn't possible 20 years ago. And so, we also have to recognize that things aren't static, that things are fluid. And even though they're not moving as fast as we would like, there is progress. And so, that's the thing that, really I try to be optimistic about. And so, like you said, so you go through this process, out there, I'm imagining
you canvassing, I'm knocking doors, I'm doing all of that. I'm convincing people, I'm showing myself, I'm showing up, I'm letting them know I'm the best candidate. Hey, you want change? Here I am, let's do this. All of the things,
Right, and so let me ask you this, because like I said, I'm not familiar with, what's going on in Raytown. And so for you guys, what are some of the issues that are felt there? Because for me, just as an outsider, because I lived in Raytown briefly in the late 90s. And so for me, what it's looked like is I haven't seen as much development as you would have thought over that time frame. And although, Raytown, I think they kind of want to hold on to that sort of small town, wholesome, you want to hold on to that somewhat. But, just the lack of progress. So talk to us about what were some of the issues that, as you were canvassing, that people were talking about specific to Raytown?
Well, I would say that right there was one of the top things. They were like, we don't have nothing. Like, what we still, where we at, there's no movement, there's no progress. They were just talking about how a lot of the businesses were you couldn't get a business. They talked about, one of the biggest things was that they talked about how they couldn't get government transparency. They felt like nobody hears us. We can't, get results. They were not engaged in their local, you know what I'm saying? And I that was the thing too. I was like, y'all, local elections matter big time. Big time. Yes. And they just were not active. They didn't know what was going on. They felt like, what's the point? They felt defeated in just their local government. They felt like, they just didn't feel like, our local government, who's that? What's that? It was kind of more like that. They did talk about some of the safety issues, as far as they felt like we could do better with our police. Oh my God, it was just, it was a lot of those issues that I feel, well, that can be taken care of. That's the unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a situation where you're like, well, I don't know what y'all gonna do. It was more like that can be fit. Okay, it was a definite mutual thing when they would, when I was canvassing and they would say, we need this, I'm like, that part, that,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? It was a lot of that. So
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest thing is that they just felt like we were back in the Civil War times. They just felt, like we've been here. What's going on?
Just no progress.
No
Yeah.
progress.
Absolutely. And we are now about 31 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. So if you are just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay, and we are having a conversation with Mrs. Latrice Thomas, Alderman from the 3rd Ward in Raytown. And so you go through, get elected, like you said, hug your baby, and tell your husband and all these good things. And now you get ready to go to work.
I'm getting ready to go to work.
You get ready to go to work.
Yes.
So you go through the process of
Yes.
all of the elected officials and get
Yes.
sworn in
I got
and
sworn
make
in.
it official.
Yes,
get
that was a
stamps
great day. My honey was right there with me,
and all of that.
and that day actually it was a interesting day because that was the same day we walking in and news people are coming in, and that was it was the same day that there was some issues already going on that the city was getting the spotlight on with the Silver Fox at the time. So they were there too, and I was like, at first when they was there, I was like, dang. Our husband and I was like, this is what they do when you get elected, because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think they doing all this, but when the cameras come, but they happen to be there. But yeah, it was a wonderful day. I just felt real full, real accomplished,
Right.
that day. That was April the 8th.
Okay, and so, so what is that process like, once you become an alderman, and then, do you go through a process, okay, you're going to be on this committee, you're going to do this, what does that look like? And then, getting introduced to the full council, meetings and all that kind of stuff. So kind of walk us through, your initiation into that.
Yes. That same day when you get sworn in, you pretty much, it's right after that we sat on the dais, which is that, where we sit up there, and you start right then and there. Like that was your meeting, so right. You pretty much, you on deck right then and there. Like, hey, you getting ready to start, you getting ready to, and that your induction or what have you, when you get, sworn in, that is pretty much your introduction to your constituents, that this is who you represented, who you voted for, your representative, and today he or she is sworn in,
Right.
Then afterwards, that is where we start to have the conversations on what committees we want to go into. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or what's available.
Right.
Not everybody is sworn in. There are already some people. It's a 4-year term.
Right.
So there's already some aldermen that are already in place. So it was like, they bring it in like a whole, they bring in some of us, whoever was up. So it was,
you gotta get in where you fit in, type situation, and So, did you have any relationship with any of the aldermen beforehand? Any allies, that type of thing, before you got in there?
I do. I have a few.
Yeah, well, that matters. Yeah. Once again, we're talking about politics, and as much as you have to compromise, you do have to have some allies.
You do.
In the room when you're working on things. And so, like you said, this is April 8th. And then, at what point, talk to us about once you get to work and, you guys are having meetings. And so are you now voting on things,
yes,
on behalf of your constituents?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So talk to us about that.
You pretty much start right then and there. Like whatever's on the agenda that day, and it just so happened to be on that agenda that we had to, there were some things that we had to vote on. So right then and there, you coming in, you voting, you are your role, okay? Right. You really are. Like it becomes immediate once you're sworn in. It's like, okay, get started, get to work. So that was how that went, just right then and there. And I did that up until my dreadful day, June 26th.
Okay. And so over the course of that 2 months, 2.5 months, you voted on different things, and once again, you're representing your area. And so then at that point, when June rolls around, so walk us through that process of when someone comes and taps you on your shoulder and
Basically,
says, hey,
yeah. Basically, literally. Except
Right.
they did it through a call. Like,
Okay. So were you at home? Were you
I was
already
at
City
work.
Hall? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I was at work. Got a call, got a text, and all that trying to reach me, you know, and asked me to come in to, you know, can you come into the office? We have to talk about some things, and also when you come, bring your equipment. Now, equipment is your city equipment. You know, you get your city iPad, you know, access, all of that, whatever it was that I had that the city gave me. Bring that in as well, and I was like, "What? Bring what? Wait a minute. Bring what in?
Right.
What we, you know?" And he says, "Yeah, we got something to talk about. Like, you know, you gotta come." So, I don't know. I was like, "Well, dang, my shift wasn't over." You know, I just told my manager, I said, "I gotta go. You know, I gotta go. I gotta go." So, you know, I left. I went straight from work to City Hall, and that's where we, it was very brief. It was very like, come into my office, and just like how we sitting now, and he showed an investigation paper in addition to the city paper, you know, with that was signed by the mayor and the city clerk.
Okay.
It was not signed by, I want to make sure I say that it was not signed by a judge, you know, or any, no, it was signed like that. And he says, you know, you can't serve, you know, and I'm looking at the paper and I'm like, I can't, what is this?
Right.
I'm literally talking just like that, you know.
And so for my audience, so back up. So did they just say like, here is the investigation, or was it like, hey, this is the specifics of what they said? You know, so they did go into the specifics of what was said, but then it's like, okay, here is the paper basically dismissing you. You done.
That was it.
There's no, you know, appeal or
nothing.
anything like
it
that.
ain't nothing. And I was like, where'd you get this from? And he was like, I got emailed to me, and I said, like, what, you know, and I know he had to see that I'm pretty like, what, you know, give me this. Like, I'm like, let me see who I need to call. What is going on?
Right.
So then I called some numbers, and he, you know, it was like, yeah, you call these people, whatever. And I went to, started calling, you know, like, how is this possible? I'm calling even some people, you know, some allies that I know, and I'm like, ain't there supposed to be like, you can do this? Like, you know, and they're like scratching their head like, damn, I didn't even know you can do that. Like, I thought you had to. They're like, so who signed the letter? Like, what's this? You know, and I was like, yeah, this is the letter. And they were like, so it was just a lot of like, what's going on here? How can you do this? People were like, so I'm on the phone, but people had gave me some attorneys to call. And you know, I'm calling attorneys, they're like, no, you can't do it. No, they, you know, looking up statutes and all of this. We're calling. I even called the number that was on there, which is an extension, like the general counsel from the like attorney general's office, or like the Missouri Department of Revenue. Even they are like, no, we ain't got no call on that. You know, like, I don't, you know, like
because
that.
It's an elected position.
Yes, they're like, you were. I'm like, yeah, I was elected. Like, normally the biggest thing is if you have any issues, like taxes or whatever, you're supposed to be cut off during that. You're not even supposed to even, you know.
Yes,
that's why it is so unheard of. That's why so many people are like, what?
Right.
Because they, you know, you even during candidacy you file.
And like you said, for this to come up after the fact.
After the fact.
Like you said, highly unusual. And we are up against our second break. And so, you know, we're going to go dig a little bit more deeper into that when we come back. But if you are just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay, and we'll be back after this quick break. 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. that was optimistic by the sounds of blackness. And we are trying to remain optimistic through all this madness that is going on right now. Our institutions are under attack. People are just playing in your face, lying to you, you know. We want to feed the poor people, but yet still you going to court to stop the SNAP benefits. I mean, make it make sense.
Yes.
And so if you are just tuning in, we have been having a conversation with Latrice Thomas, who was elected as an alderman in the 3rd Ward in Raytown, and after serving for a little over 2 months, was called into the mayor's office and unceremoniously removed, based around tax problem. That even, let's just say for the sake of argument, that were the case, there seems to be a process for removal of an elected official. And that's what, we really want to talk about is, so from your understanding and the lawyers that you've talked to, so where are we at, or where were they derelict in the process? Where did they fail at?
Oh, the entire process.
Okay.
Even just me being called into the mayor's office right there, that it shouldn't even have happened like that. Even I could just even go back just on that word alone, we was said earlier, just the due process of it.
Yeah.
Like, even like you said, for the sake of it, even with disputed taxes, you're supposed to be notified, and I wasn't notified of any letter, certified letter, nothing,
or even an opportunity to
No.
pay them, or any of that.
nothing. And
Right.
this is just me even thinking about it. I remember my husband and I, we were in the car just last weekend, and we were talking about I don't know. I can't remember but I remember him saying, "What's funny is we haven't even got no letter from them." Like, and I was like, "Yeah." Like, he was just kind of recollecting over, and them is the Missouri Department of Revenue. He was like, "Well, I mean, we ain't even got no letters. Like, how crazy is that?"
Right. But they notified the mayor.
They know, and that's right.
Right.
And just think about that when I asked him, I said, "Where'd you get this from?" He said, "Email." I'm like, "Well, couldn't I have gotten this?" Like, I was thinking too, like, I'm an elected official. Like, you can look up our information. Like, it's public. So I'm like, I'm at meetings. I'm at, alderman meetings on the 1st and 3rd. I'm like, well, that. So just when you think about the due process of like how that even, it wasn't right. You know what I'm saying?
And so still to this day, as of November 8th, have you received any sort of formal notification as to, your removal from the seat?
Not.
If there's an opportunity for you to
No.
run, and they have not filled your seat?
No.
At this point?
No, they have not. And I'm thinking because they are aware that I have some legal, things that are making this happen. And, also, they, as far as the city attorney, had talked with the attorney that I'm working with, and her last message was that she sent it to the Attorney General office. So I don't know. I guess I'm waiting on them, but in the meantime, I am still working with an attorney to make sure, to get some things, together and make sure that we can continue on and stuff like that. So.
Well, and like you said, the thing for me is, obviously it's a layered situation, but when you want to encourage people to be civically engaged,
yes,
and to be a part of the community, you just don't do it like this. But then also, like you said, it's unfortunate, but just the coincidence of it happening to a black woman, in an area that has historically not been friendly to black folks. Maybe that's just another coincidence. And so for you, and for our audience, because, it sounds to me like there's no representation for the 3rd Ward currently. And so for someone that's in the 3rd Ward, what should they be or what are you looking for? What would be a successful resolution for you?
Absolutely. I will say this is that there is some representation because there's 2 aldermen per ward.
Okay.
There's a total of 5 wards in Raytown, and there's 2. So currently there is someone there.
Okay.
I won't get into that as far as what I'm hearing some of the people say. They're like, anyway, there's no representation. So, but there is someone there. But they don't have those constituents don't have the fullness of like everybody else with 2.
Right. Yeah.
So there is a lack. There is a lack of representation there. So right now, what will look successful is me being able to sit back in my seat. That is along with some other things, but ultimately, if anybody say, what do you want? I want to be back in my seat. I want what I won an election.
What you earned.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That is what. Right now is perfect timing. I actually do have started up some community meetings, which also will create the platform that I want anyway, which is to have more people engaged. More people to know that they have power. I want voters to be able to, speak. I want voters to know that their vote do matter. At least it should. We got to stop undermining the voters. And so I am having a community conversation for Ward 3, so that they can have the opportunity to hear some things that they may need from me. Where is our elected alderman is the question that I always hear. People are like, well, where,
Right.
So that's tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow at the public library in Raytown.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be there at 3 p.m. At
Okay.
3 p.m. So.
And so this is, like you said, a community
engagement
opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
And to have a plan of action to see how we can get people to be empowered with their own voice and so that they can know to let's go to City Hall and let them hold them accountable. You know what I'm saying? So
right, and I'm sorry, I should have asked this earlier in the program or in the process. So if someone wanted to reach out to you and contact you for more information, how can they do that?
They can. I do have a Facebook group. It's Raytown Alderman Ward 3. You go to that page, you'll see all the information.
Okay.
You'll see contact information as well, phone number, email, and all of that as well.
Okay, so repeat again. It's on Facebook.
It is on Facebook. It is. I want to say Raytown Alderman Ward 3.
Okay.
I could be missing. I could Raytown. It could be Raytown Alderman Thomas. But you will still see. You just say Raytown Ward 3, it will pop up. So.
Right. Awesome. And so, it's amazing how quickly this hour goes
Absolutely.
by. And want to thank you once again for your patience in working through our technical difficulties early. And so, like I said, I'm just always appreciative of folks who are able to go beyond the rhetoric of, what the problems are, and who are willing to put the work in and work towards solutions, and then to take it the extra step to try to work to empower others. And so, I'm just appreciative of what you've been doing. I support you going forward. Thank you. As this story develops, if there's anything else you want to bring to the table, you are always welcome here.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And so anything before we get up out of here?
I think we're good. I do want to extend that invite again. I want people to come out. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the Raytown Mid-Continent Library. Yes.
And like you said, this is an opportunity for those folks that want to be involved. People that, like you said, if you don't vote, I don't want to hear you complaining about it.
Right.
And so, this is an opportunity, and it's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And, like I said, this is a chance for you to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you really, really care about the future of your community, these are the types of events that you want to
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
So, thank you once again, Ms. Thomas, for joining us. Thank you, Brother Mike, for being in the building. God, like I said, man, this guy, The universe continues to have us connect some kind of way periodically. And when I found out that this was your wife, it's like, oh yeah, we definitely gonna have this conversation.
Yes, I did. I said, Michael, who is Brother Jay? He said, oh, that's my dude right there. That's my dude. I said, well, I'm going to do an interview with him. How you know him? And then I called Jay and I was like, do you know my husband? Like, he's like, yeah, that's my dude.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We was working at McDonald's when they was actually still cooking the burgers.
Back when the food tasted good.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage everyone, please stay tuned at the top of the hour for Roots Wise Reggae. Going to be another great program. And also, in the midst of our technical difficulties, I did not get to thank my audience tremendously for exceeding our fundraising goal during the fall pledge. You guys doubled what my goal was, so I am super appreciative. It is so important, like I said, especially right now, that you guys continue to support community radio and these alternative voices to what's going on out here in mainstream media. So we will be back next week with another program. Like I said, stay tuned at the top of the hour for Roots Wise Reggae, and we're out.